This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back talking about Echo Season 1, Episode 4, Taloa.
After your father died, I tried to get out. Fisk threatened to kill me if I did. So I came back here and did his dirty work. And I don't want you to become me.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back talking about Echo Season 1, Episode 4, the penultimate episode, Taloa. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Defenders. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And stop! It's hammer time. I'm Chris.
Welcome back, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was struck like a hammer in the night. Or I should say a fist father in the night.
Ooh.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Oh, yeah.
Too soon. It's only been 30 years, I think, since that happened. But of course, yes, we're going to be talking spoiler-filled on this episode of Echo. And I guess spoiler-filled on Daredevil Season 1.
Yeah.
In case you haven't seen that, that's basically the entire story behind Season 1, what happened to Wilson Fisk's father. And it's all out on the table here in this episode of Echo.
Yeah, it was a nice little touchback, to be honest. Yeah.
It was.
Different hammer, though.
Oh, yes, it was, yes.
Continuity.
The ball-peen hammer in this episode.
Multiverse. So the actors stay the same, the hammers change.
That's it. That's the only thing different. Yeah. You can see the watcher coming in going, what if the hammer that Wilson Fisk used was different? Endless possibilities, infinite universes. Great stuff. Yes, we are on to the penultimate episode of Echo on TV Podcast Industries. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, there's loads and loads of other podcasts to listen to from us over the last 10 years. They're all available on our website at tvpodcastindustry.com. Pop it over there. Subscribe to whichever podcast feed that you like, or even whichever podcast you like. There's one there just for the Defenders and all the Marvel stuff, and one for all of our movies, and one for Star Wars The Bad Batch, which will be returning later in February as well. You can also send in feedback to us on any of the shows that we're covering by emailing us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or popping on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. We have a spoiler post up there for every episode of every show that we're covering. You can pop in your thoughts in there and chat with some of our other fellow Defenders as well.
Yes, so plenty of listening for your ears, fellow Defenders, and to get yourselves maybe ready for Daredevil and his return, of course. Yes. We have all 3 seasons of the Marvel Netflix Daredevil show.
We do.
And of course, we, as always, love to get your feedback, thoughts, theories, observations, comments, you name it, on all things to do with the shows that we cover.
Mm-hmm.
But shall we get into our spoiler-filled discussion? Derek, what are some of the episode details here?
Well, of course, Echo was created by David Mack and Joe Quesada. The head writer for this show is Marion Dayre. This episode was written by Ken Kristensen and Josh Feldman, along with Chantelle M. Wells. We mentioned Ken and Josh earlier on in the season as they wrote other episodes. Chantelle wrote an episode of the excellent series Yellow Jackets as well.
Ah, very good. Yes.
Yeah, really enjoyed that show.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, returning in 2025 because of the writer's strike. It's been delayed a bit, but going to be away for a full year. But looking forward to the 3rd season of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to be really good.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Still don't know what's going on with the spiritual stuff, but yes, it's good.
Yeah, we'll see that. That's the mystery, right? This episode again was directed by Sidney Freeland, who directed the first 2 episodes as well. So back again for the final 2 episodes. So yeah, really enjoyed having her as the overarching director for the series.
Yeah, I agree on that. Definitely a particular style that she's kind of brought to it.
Exactly.
The majority of it.
Yeah. And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Echo, Episode 4, Taloa?
Sure. In 2008, a young Maya is verbally abused by an ice cream vendor who fails to understand her request for ice cream. An enraged Fisk retaliates by brutally attacking the vendor. Although Maya witnesses this, she kicks the vendor as payback. Several years later, Maya is about to begin work for Fisk when he offers a final lesson. Only the 2 of them can trust one another. While they finish their shared dinner, Fisk's ASL translator is dismissed and brutally killed. Back in Tamaha at Maya's family home, Fisk and his men surround Maya, but Fisk gives Maya an augmented reality contact lens so that they can communicate without an ASL interpreter. Fisk tells her that he will give her his criminal empire if she agrees to return with him to New York, giving her 1 day to decide. Maya shares this with Henry, who advises against it, but she suddenly receives a vision of her ancestors. At the Choctaw Powwow Festival grounds, Chula receives the same vision. Henry takes Maya to see Chula, who tells her that their ancestors help them when they need it most, recounting a vision that she received when giving birth to Maya's mother, Taloa. Maya leaves in anger, feeling abandoned by Chula as a child. Chula later begins to work on a special garment. That night, Maya goes to Fisk's hotel with the intention of killing him. Revealing to her that he killed his father after seeing him beat his mother, Fisk tells her to make good on her threat if that is what she needs, but she rejects this. He repeats his invitation to join her in New York, but is enraged to find out the next morning that Maya has left Tamaha without him. Yes, I thought that jet plane was a goner. They was going to just smash through those flimsy, those flimsy partitions that you get in planes. And it was a bad episode for the service industry, whether you're an ice cream vendor or an ASL interpreter.
Well, yeah.
I have to say, I don't think it was intentionally supposed to be funny, but it was just
Which one?
the murder of the ASL
I don't
interpreter.
think it was, no.
Sorry, translator.
Uh-huh.
But just the fact that they were still eating away, and because Maya can't hear what's going on, just, you know, as the ASL translator is shepherded down a corridor to sort of a load of plastic. I think she must have known quite soon. And
Exactly. I was like, she was walking towards it, and I'm like, honey.
Oh, she
come
does
on.
know. Oh, she does know. That is our 5-point number one. We are going to talk about the Fisk flashback really as part number one. So let's talk about the translator and her murder there as she gets ushered out the door. I think she does know. She meets the security guard at the door, and it seems like that's very unusual for her to meet him right there. She sees it, and she does start to cry out.
Oh no, she does, exactly.
Definitely. She knows what's going to happen to her. She's probably seen it happen a lot.
And you hear the comical thud. So I found it slightly I mean, I know it's a bit dark, but I kind of unintentionally found it slightly hilarious.
I think it was, for me, it was an uncomfortable amusement. It was like, whoa, okay, didn't expect that to happen. Because it's not a comical thud. That's her brains being splattered on the plastic behind her head.
Maybe it was that.
It's a pretty brutal way to go.
And it was also just, you know, it was the absurdity of them having their meal. It is that kind of absurd situation that happens when effectively mob bosses need to take someone out who you know, they don't trust. You see, that's it. Having to buy in or pay in for external assistance, the Fisk, you know, has to sort of tie up the loose ends.
Yeah. But that's it. I suppose it's kind of the interesting thing. And it's been a joke in lots of comedy shows, I suppose, about this idea that, you know, your supervillain in a James Bond movie, for example, will tell his henchmen to go and take care of someone. And they have this ongoing joke in comedy shows about, well, what does take care of them mean? Does it mean taking them out to dinner? Does it mean like shoot them? You know, Pulp Fiction also made that as a bit of a bit as well. So when you have an ASL interpreter who has to interpret all of your missions to one of your effectively key lieutenants in Maya, she seems to have a pretty high role in his organization. They're finding out a lot of information about your operation and everything that's going on, right? So I think that's why Wilson had made this choice to kill her. That's it.
Yeah. And certainly because it was the conversation of, you know, his final lesson that we can only trust each other. I guess it sort of connects into that, but it's also, I guess the other final lesson is always take care of loose ends.
Yes.
You know, so, and the other interesting thing here, because it was 2021, which you mentioned, is that obviously Maya and Fisk were not snapped out of existence. They survived.
Yeah.
So he could have really cleaned up in New York, actually.
I believe he did.
It was always the thing that bugged me from the movies where all of a sudden, yes, I know half the population was snapped out of existence, but there was, you know, sort of shanty Boatville round by the Statue of Liberty and so on. At least Fisk managed to keep, you know, his head about him whilst everyone else was losing it, because he seems quite sort of as though nothing really much has happened.
That's very much a trait of Wilson Fisk.
And he could really cleaned up with in New York with all the superheroes blipped away.
I am kind of surprised though. Now I know not everything has to really be connected, and Echo's sitting slightly outside.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sitting in its own little bubble, I suppose. But I am quite surprised that Wilson Fisk wouldn't have made it onto Ronan's list. Clint Barton took on the persona of Ronan and went around the world killing leaders of organized crime who were still alive after the blip because he lost his family. That was his mission. I'm kind of surprised that Wilson Fisk in New York as Kingpin wouldn't be quite high on that list for Clint Barton, since he goes to New York quite often, right?
Yeah.
Because he was, remember, because Ronan did go to Fat Man Autos, and obviously the whole thing that kicked off Echo, the death of Maya's father, so I'm assuming he was just working his way up.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't have slowed down and other things hadn't happened, he would have made his way there slowly.
Yeah. He probably was pretty high on the list, but didn't get to finally take him out.
It was a long list, to be fair.
That's true. That's very true. The other thing really in the flashback here is the death of the ice cream seller in 2008. This was a pretty brutal scene as Wilson looks on as his niece, Maya, gets turned away from an ice cream. Gets treated like crap because she can't speak to the ice cream seller. And I bet she regrets not selling that ice cream to her.
Absolutely. Can you imagine if you didn't put sprinkles on the ice cream or something like that?
She wanted sprinkles. Maya wanted sprinkles. Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. It felt very Kingpin that he would do that. Certainly for someone that, because he doesn't have too many people close to him. Yeah. Maya is one of those. I do like the fact that, he's worried about her seeing it, and then he sees that she's witnessed his sort of beating of this ice cream seller, and she comes over and just kind of tries to finish him off with the two sort of kicks to the body as they walk off hand in hand, with the ice cream seller sort of pretty bloodied and bruised and down on the ground, So I kind of like that because it kind of just relates to that sort of very, when we get back to the present. I like the fact that Maya says our language was always violence. Our language, our common language together, it wasn't ASL, I like the fact that she says you never thought about learning it.
Never loved me enough to learn it.
Our language was violence. So I kind of really enjoyed that. And it is that to that point, to what extent Maya, even though her father wanted something different, but, taken in, mentored by Fisk, to what extent that embedded language of violence is with her, despite all the attempts, of her immediate family, back in Tamaha to try and maybe have some sort of breakthrough to her in some way. At this moment, it's mainly Henry, but do you know what I mean? And Bonnie would if she was given the opportunity. So I like how that kind of sort of frames or sort of provides that baseline of where Maya is here.
Yeah. For the flashbacks as a whole, I really enjoyed it. So the actual watcher in me loves these scenes. The dry cleaner in me is like, why wouldn't he just take his jacket off? He knows he's going to punch the hell out of this guy. It's just like, and it would have just been a bit more like scary, where he just kind of like throws the guy on the ground, takes his jacket off, like shows his full Fisk physique, and then beats the crap and then puts the jacket back on. That would be more. But again, it was just kind of like, why didn't you do that?
There's an in-universe reason, Chris.
Oh, why?
Do you remember his suit is armored, so in case the guy pulls a knife on him or something like that, it's his protection.
Well, there is that.
Yeah, it's the same guy that made the outfit for Daredevil, right?
Seemingly, his eyeballs are armored as well.
Yeah, it's a strange.
Well,
they're not.
Yes, kind of.
Or has he now got a glass eye? That is the question.
We will find out. We will find out.
I'm sure we will.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed how they bring it all together. I enjoyed how they have tightened that connection further throughout these 4 episodes, but also and particularly with this episode, how, yes, they have shown how tied Maya is to Fisk. Because the way it was built, say, in kind of Hawkeye, was that she was a bit more of an enforcer for him.
Yeah.
Like, she was, like, now we are seeing, no, like, he cared for her as a daughter. Very much so. Like, you could argue this was Vanessa 2.0.
Yeah.
This was almost like another family member for him. It was like his wife, almost.
It's his chosen family,
definitely.
Yeah.
It tightens that, and again, then heightens what we can only assume is going to be, from the end of this episode, a confrontation between them, and heightening it, the what's on the stakes and the emotions of that by giving us this flashback at the beginning to really hammer home. No, they're chosen family.
Yes. I like your use of hammer home there, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice. I do also like, just speaking of dry cleaning, I do also like that what Wilson is trying to do is just get somebody else to deliver him a new jacket, so that Maya doesn't find out that he's been beating the crap out of the ice cream seller.
But he had blood everywhere else.
Exactly. He could have just said it was the raspberry sauce.
Oh, there you go. That could be.
Every time you punch an ice cream seller, it's just raspberry sauce that comes out.
That's all it is. Good stuff. Let's go on to 5 point number 2. 5 point number 2 is Wilson Fisk at Maya's home. I've just titled this one ASL in AOR because I like acronyms. So American Sign Language in augmented reality, a new invention of Wilson Fisk, because as cool. Maya calls out, he's so lazy he won't learn ASL himself.
Yeah, I thought this idea of the contacts, this augmented reality, I thought it was really cool. The only thing that took me slightly out of it was how on earth he was able to put that contact lens in to Maya's eyeball so effortlessly while she was struggling and being held down by, his security.
It's not like an earpiece into someone's ear. It's like a contact lens into somebody else's eye.
It's like he could have completely missed and just poked her eye out or something.
Eye for an eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Oops.
I kind of thought that's what he was doing, because it looked so forceful with 3 of his men holding her down while he's pushing into her eyeball. You kind of think he's using that violence. Like, I'm a glasses wearer. I went to Specsavers to get myself a pair of contact lenses, and they don't let you go until you've fitted them in front of the person there. I went 15 times to get lessons to put in contact lenses and could never do it. I eventually gave up, and I think they were happy about it. They'd seen me so often in there.
If Derek was a baby now, would he be able to learn to walk?
No, absolutely
we just
not.
don't know. It is hilarious.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But it is. It's putting your finger so close to your eyeball is so weird. I mean, so hats off to Fisk. Bulky, seemingly unagile, but he's as fleet-footed, as swift-handed as a pickpocketer. He's got skills there to be able to chuck that contact lens into Maya's eyeball so deftly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it is, for me, really cool, because for me, that's giving her now a cool piece of tech for the future of Ekin.
Yeah.
That is true.
She doesn't now she has this contact lens so that she can still hear then and fully understand people going forward.
And
that's what it seems like, yeah.
Exactly. And ASL translators throughout the world can breathe a huge sigh of relief that they won't need to be sort of hired in by Fisk.
Yeah.
And, they can sleep well at night.
Yeah.
The highest mortality outside of super.
Yeah, and oil rig workers.
That would be we've noticed a huge spike in deaths of ASL. It's so weird.
They seem to be going down every year, particularly in New York. That's terrible. Yeah, that's good. So he is trying to save lives. This is Wilson Fisk's way of saving lives, I guess. And I did really like it though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they have the sit down again, the whole aspect of where they're sitting down for this dinner.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's going to boil over. The tension. Why I love Vincent D'Onofrio and so happy he is back as Kingpin.
Absolutely.
Confirmed he is the MCU Kingpin. That is what we're getting. He is that commanding presence, but also very much that sinister. It's like a coiled snake.
Yeah.
Almost. Like, you know it's going to rear up and attack,
Mhm.
but you don't know when. It could be now, it could be never.
Exactly.
And it's just that kind of, he exudes tension in this, but behind a veneer of kind of high society and class and things like that.
Mhm.
So he is kind of, she pours down the wine and it's like a Chateau de Pouf, like 52, and you're like,
I think that's
okay,
Chateau
so-
Neuf de Pape, is that what?
yeah, I was
I
going
think
for,
it was a Chateau Lafette.
Chateau de Fête.
I think, yeah. Certainly not de Poof.
I don't know. There could be a de Pouf
There
in
might
the
be.
MCU.
Was that your pub quiz
Chateau
question,
de
John?
Pouf.
No.
Okay, great. We didn't do an alcohol pub quiz question.
I
It's
know.
a shocker. Okay, good. Didn't spoil that one. But her pouring away the wine, I was kind of offended by that too. But I think she was like, look, if you're coming here to impress me, you are not going to impress me. So
I thought it was more poison.
she was worried that he was gonna poison her.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
It could have been,
Or
yeah. I
drunk
mean,
her.
I took it as it was a little bit of defiance to say, don't try and sort of, soft touch me with
That's
all
what I
these
thought.
gifts. Because, he had her favorite cookies and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was like her little bit of defiance to say, look, you can drink out of a can.
Yeah, here's a can.
Yeah.
Here's a can of wine.
But I do like the kind of look on Alakwa Cox's face when he says to her, are these I brought your favorite cookies, and there is that look on her face that kind of goes, I'll still keep the cookies after you leave, I'll pour the wine away, but I'm still going to keep those cookies though.
Yeah, exactly.
But the big offer from Wilson Fisk here is literally what she had wanted in episode 1. He's saying to her, you will get everything.
Yeah, he's
if you come back
handing
to New
her
York,
Queen
you
Pin.
get the Empire, you become Queen Pin.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was quite interesting. So he knows exactly what she wants from him after the attack that she did on the ammunition.
Yeah,
So
it was quite,
yeah.
it was a surprise, this proposition, to hand his empire to her.
Mhm.
In a sense, or maybe he's just taking a back seat, ultimately he's not going to, stop the cash flows coming in. But, it was quite a surprising proposition, but maybe that's, I think in the end that the shot to the face, he could understand that from his own perspective, so he didn't as such take offense to it, weirdly.
Yeah. I'd definitely take offense to a shot.
No,
to the face.
so would I. But I mean, that's the kind of mixed up sort of crazy reasoning. That's ultimately what he has taught her to do, would be to take out your threats in that moment. So he was her threat.
Absolutely.
He knows what he did, although he does, again, that's still her working assumption. He hasn't admitted to killing her father.
That's true.
So in that wider sense, it could still have been a play by Ronan, by Hawkeye.
Mhm. Yeah.
And maybe that's where her doubt is still.
Mm-hmm.
Was she used and manipulated by Hawkeye?
Yeah, maybe.
I am very interested to see how this series ends, and is she going to be Queen Pin at the end? Because we do know that there is a female lead of the Ten Rings from Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi's sister has taken over the Ten Rings.
That's right.
So I was like, ooh, is this going to be Maya sitting down at the end of this series, on the throne of Kingpin's empire? And maybe Born Again is Kingpin having to be born again and rebuild his empire, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But in the meantime, is it going to be we are getting a Ten Rings series, apparently.
No.
That's in the works.
Right.
Or a film. But I think it's a series. It's some special presentation.
I think it was just at the end of Shang-Chi, it said the 10 rings will return, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
So we will see the 10 rings again, but I don't know whether anything's on the schedule right now, which has moved
It was on the schedule.
so many times.
It was in the schedule. I remember seeing a 10 Rings feature, not a film, but it was like a presentation, i.e. One of the Disney Plus type shows. But I was like, oh, cool. They're going to kind of put them up against each other. And I think it's an interesting proposition. Obviously, towards the end of this episode, that is not the case, probably.
Yeah.
But I think it would be something interesting to see.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And the fact, again, that he is offering exactly what you wanted was quite an interesting point on this. On point number 3, so he gives her a date to decide, and she goes off and discusses it with Henry, who's said he's now working directly with her, as we saw at the end of episode 3. So she goes off and discusses it with him, and this is where she has her vision, again, of her ancestors. This time seems much more powerful. It seems like a massive warning from the ancestors: do not go and join Fisk and lose yourself again, almost, is what it seemed like.
Yeah, and I mean, that echoes through as well from Henry, even in the present. So I kind of like this, how even those people not connected, through this ancestral line that Chula has and so on, and their family are effectively saying the same thing. And I think this whole, like, shared vision between Maya and Chula was really, really good, because it's the driving force that brings them together. So it's kind of, the spirits or the ancestors, that power sort of working in mysterious ways to actually bring grandmother, granddaughter together for the first time. And I just loved how just really tense this was at that sort of emotional level, in the sense of you have Chula effectively explaining to Maya about her ancestors of Chaffa, Loak, and Tuklo, and the ability to know when they are needed, and this echoing of generations reaching out when they're needed most by people in the present. But it's also then just the flip side of that, of, in a sense, almost feeling like this ancestral link is broken through this abandonment that Chula did of Maya because of her father. As Maya says, I was a child, you disowned me, you chose yourself. So it almost goes against the teachings that Chula has said.
It does, and I like this.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because it's just good writing, isn't it? It's someone that's telling you this is how you should live your life, and then you kind of reflect the mirror back at them, and you go, but hang on a second, you left me behind. You're the one that chose not to come and visit me because of my father. Had nothing to do with Maya and what she was all about. It had everything to do with William. She had the opportunity, Chula, over the years to reach out to Maya and never did that, blaming her for what her father did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I have to say, Tantu Cardinal, I just love her face. I think the expressions, just in any sense, how she was signing and mouthing to Maya, but also, that emotion when Maya has left angry at Chula for abandoning her, and she's there at the seamstress's mannequin. I just thought it was really a great kind of sort of ending to that scene where, she realizes what she's done because of her father and, that abandonment, in a sense. So I thought that was really, really, kind of good. And as I say, I think Tantu Cardinal, just so good in this scene.
Yeah,
well,
really
they both are, but I mean, I don't know, it's something about, the lines on the face. It's just the expressiveness of it.
Without a doubt.
And I think in particular, where she kind of breaks down at her sort of mannequin, where she does her seaming and so on.
Is it seaming?
Tailoring, I guess.
Maybe something like that.
Seamstressing.
Beading.
Yeah.
For the band.
I know, Chris, you'd mentioned earlier on in the season, at the start of the season, that we've never really watched that many shows that feature characters using ASL all the time in different situations. And this is a true representation of that in the show, where you have two characters using ASL in a really dramatic scene. And it's a really weighty scene and really important scene. Chula is supposed to have taken on board what Scully had said to her in the last episode about listening, not just speaking, not telling someone what you want them to do. And it doesn't seem like at the beginning of this scene, at least, that Chula's taken that on board. Maya comes to her for help, and she tells her the story of her ancestors. She tells her the story of how her mother was born. But it's only when she gets to the end of that and tells Maya who she should be, and then Maya does react. Maya does come back to her and tell her, I felt lost, I felt abandoned. Those were your choices. And then she listens to the advice. She listens to what Scully had said to her, and she hears it.
Yes.
You can tell from the reaction she has of the mannequin, as you say, John. So it's a very weighty scene to only be told through ASL subtitles and the faces of both actors in the parts.
I love Allegra Cox in this because of the emotions that she can deliver. And you can also see when it's almost her version of shouting, which is when she is delivering the lines. She is signing, but then also almost mouthing and kind of it's a breathly shouting is the way I kind of describe it.
Yeah.
You can hear her almost punctuate certain words. Now, they're not fully formed sentences. It's just certain words are kind of breathed out.
Exactly.
And it's her version of screaming and shouting.
Yeah.
While she signs the word.
Yeah.
And it really just gives this, it's a strong, I think you use the word weighty, but it's a strong, weighty scene, but almost just, it just, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you're almost sucked in further to the scene because you are reading the subtitles, hearing this almost quiet ASMR breath scream of certain words.
Right. And
then, as you said, both of the actors are so expressive that you can feel this emotion coming through. Yeah. And I loved it. The kickback on the words, kind of, and the pushback on from Maya is, in my opinion, 100% right. When you actually do kind of get down, you're like, oh yeah, no, she's right to be angry.
Absolutely. She was an 8-year-old kid and her grandmother abandoned her, effectively. I did
want to celebrate about echoing through the generations. We called it. It's like, that's where they got the name from.
Exactly.
And we very much in episode 2, we literally word for word, we had said that on this podcast. Yeah. And so it's good to see that they are doing that. Their powers and skills throughout the generations are echoing down, flowing into Maya.
Yeah. The only defense I'll give to Chula on this is that you do get this talk of Maya's father saying how Chula destroyed the family.
Yes.
And you do then wonder to what extent, at least until his death, I'm not saying they poisoned her against their grandmother, but, at the start of this series, we see her saying, you're a bad egg, bad influence, the Lopez brothers and so on. So
Chula,
you want, Chula to William. So I wonder just to what extent, that separation as well was brought about by, William, as much as Chula, just in, as another factor in here. But ultimately, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just another aspect to it.
It is, but the balancing factor there is Bonnie, who has been able to at least reach out to Maya for that entire 20 years, regardless of whether Maya responds to her at all. She's been able to do it. Chula could have posted a letter. She is a postmaster, so she would have been able to post a letter to her. If Bonnie's able to get in contact with her, Chula should have been able to get in contact with her. But you're right. There's of course, this happens in families all the time. They fall apart. They lose contact with each other. But Maya's point is, if you wanted to, you could have.
Absolutely.
Effectively. And it should have been on the grandmother, not the 8-year-old girl, to keep in contact.
Exactly.
So
I was just saying, another
there's the other side of it
as well.
Yeah. What did you think of the actual ancestor tale this episode? Each episode that we've seen so far, we've had them opening up with the ancestor that we're talking about. The episode's called Taloa, named after Maya's mother, who we see is born with the help of the ancestors, because Chula would have lost her as a child in a regular hospital. She's taken out into the woods with the rest of the Choctaw Nation, helping her to give birth to Taloa, and with the help of the ancestors, she's born. What did you think of that scene? I thought it was pretty beautifully shot.
Yeah, I liked how it was kind of, it was almost like that reconnect with nature. And I loved how when Chula is looking sideways into the forest and it becomes the cave.
Yes.
I kind of like that kind of connection there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is different because actually I don't think it's fully realized this ancestral element yet. I mean, at the moment we just know that, what Maya is seeing is what Chula saw on the night of Taloa's birth, so we don't have that opening ancestral flashback like we've had in the others. We do get that flashback of Fisk and Maya. So I think we still need to understand Taloa here as well,
Yeah. For me, I think the way you said it was beautifully shot. I feel it's a bit of a tough one because I don't fully. I suppose they culminated in a way that I'm like, okay, it makes sense. It's in the person's time or the ultimate time of need, and I suppose because Taloa was dying, and so was the child. That is why the spirits passed on and gave her that additional strength.
Yeah.
It was just all the others have been about something a bit more weighty, I suppose, than carrying on the bloodline.
It's pretty weighty for Maya. She wouldn't exist if Chula hadn't given birth to Taloa. So. It's pretty weighty for them as a family.
I was like, if it was just, I suppose for me, it was just more like she was shot or something and then having the baby and things like that. Then I think it was just, but I think it was beautifully shot. The scene where she is giving birth in labor against the tree while it is pouring rain.
Yeah.
And it was slowed slightly. It wasn't like a 0.5 slow down, but it was definitely a 0.75 or something. Like it was just taken down like just slightly so you could see this other actress portraying Chula like in kind of agony, and then the what you would assume then is the kind of the ecstasy of the painkiller almost kicking in.
Maybe.
It's like, there's the special help from my ancestors.
From the ancestors, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I what I also kind of like about it though is that you would think this would be the story of the birth of Maya. That would be the traditional way to do this story, that it was Taloa that was having problems giving birth to Maya, and Maya was born under the help of the ancestors, and that's why she's so special. But it's not that.
Yes.
It's that it's Chula getting the guidance through the ancestors, giving birth to Taloa. I just thought that was interesting, that it wasn't you were born in these amazing circumstances and now you're a Jedi master. It's not that story. Yeah. It's that this is what happened to me when I was young. This is how I channeled the ancestors, and because of that, your mother was born. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. So really, the ancestor here that got the powers is Chula, despite the name of the episode being Taloa.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. Like you said, it's the continuation of the bloodline.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting choice. Yeah. Like I said, like again, it's just like giving that. Now it does, I'm interested to see, because the next episode is going to be Maya.
It's called Maya,
That is, it's called Maya.
Yeah.
It is the next. So maybe they will show that there was another issue and the culmination is this child of...
Can you imagine if they did it again, if they said, if they had Taloa unable to give birth to Maya, so she has to go out and have the ancestors help her give birth, and it turns out the ancestors only just help members of their family give birth to the next generation. And that's it.
But that's why I was saying how
be
this episode was odd, because it is entitled Taloa, yet at this moment in time, we see the ancestors coming to Chula. We don't know. We haven't yet seen what Taloa brings. It's not really in this episode.
Exactly.
So I'm expecting it relates to then how Maya is.
Yeah, I think they've kind of changed the reasoning behind the name of the episode, because Taloa is the most important person in this episode. She's the reason why Maya is on the revenge streak. It's the reason why Maya moved to New York. It's also the reason why Chula has separated from Maya and broken the family apart. It's all to do with Taloa. That's why the episode is named that, because it is about that most important character in all of their lives. So rather than it being just the ancestor story, but I just thought it was an interesting choice to talk about Chula. Great stuff. There was just a little moment there at the end, as John mentioned, with Chula looking at the mannequin with something on it, and making some kind of choice. I wonder, will this be Maya's superhero uniform or superhero outfit that she's looking at? Does she have her own seamstress at home going to make up Maya's outfit?
Could be. Yeah.
I'm gonna say, like, unfortunately it was ruined by Pop. Literally before the show even came out, because it was delayed, they showed imageries of one of the, say, New York Comic Con last year or something. One of a show, one of the major kind of shows. It was Funko Pop, and it was they showed Fisk and Maya, and Maya was in that garb. Well, now I know what is that garb, and Fisk was in his white, but with something on his eye, and you're like, oh, now that I've seen it in live action, I'm like, okay, now like I'm understanding, because it was just Maya, and I was like, the whole time I was like, wait, is this going to be a flashback? Is her in a garb, her in her superhero uniform in a flashback, or when she was a child or something? Now, yes, I am pretty much assuming that is her ceremonial armor that will get imbued by magic that can suddenly deflect bullets. Leather can stop bullets, type of thing.
Maybe. She's fast enough. She can get away with them. But I hope it matches up with her brand new leg. That she got last week.
Yeah, because they're just slowly, it is very much like Daredevil season 1. They're just getting bits of the armor over time until the end, and we'll see her at the end of the series sitting on top of a building in her full uniform.
I love it. That's another callback to Netflix Daredevil by this show. Yeah, she doesn't get her full outfit until the end of the series, the last episode of the series. So on to fight point number 4. Is it hammer time? Maya does come back to Fisk the following day to make her decision on what she's going to do. I think you mentioned in the synopsis, or you mentioned earlier on, John, that Maya is going here to kill Fisk anyway. And then when she hears the story and has the offer from Fisk where he hands over a ball-peen hammer this time, rather than the actual hammer he used on his father, but tells her it's the hammer that he used, he gives the offer to her to effectively say, if this is what you need to do, take it.
He says, the hammer, I killed him to be free. Free yourself, free me, effectively, with the hammer. So I think Maya does go there to kill Kingpin, but I think she's massively conflicted, and that's what you get here. She's just literally come from a fight with her grandmother. She is estranged still from Bonnie and keeps everyone else at a distance unless she's effectively needing them, and the only person possibly that she is closer to is Henry, and that's because he's willing to be her backup for being Queenpin, effectively a criminal. So I think it's the battle here and the confliction that she's got from her family, but also how that relates to Kingpin, in that he became her family. He was her uncle, that's how he describes her. He says we only had each other. He, reminds her of that lesson that he loved her even. And so I think there is that, yes, she wants to kill him to be Queenpin. She's aware now of this new offer. And I guess with everything, she decides against it. But I think the intention was to go there to kill him. The gun's out. She's going in, literally the step below guns blazing. In order to do it, but is turned around because she's in such a state of conflict around her personal relationships. Really, like I guess they're messy, is what I mean.
I guess the step is a step below is safety on. Would that be?
I guess so.
Goes in, guns, safety on.
So I liked all this,
I like the overall symbolism of it. I think it's for the three of us, and for any of the watchers of the original Netflix Daredevil, it has way more weight and symbolism.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it is somewhat lost or less effective. I'm being very kind of on those who haven't watched that episode, or those Netflix. My wife was a bit like, okay, that's a bit weird. I don't get she didn't fully understand what was going, like why it was so important, and it was just like, oh, he's just showing a murder weapon.
But he does say that he killed his father. So
he does.
Would you not pick up from that he's telling a woman that he's calling his niece that he's already killed a family member to release himself, and now giving her the opportunity to kill her family member if she needs that to release himself. I know it's massively more weighty if you've watched the 7 episodes it took to reveal that in Daredevil season 1, but I think just the simplicity that's there, where he's saying to her, I had to do this, I understand if you have to do this. He's almost freeing her from the blame that he should have for her for shooting him in the head, and saying to her, if you still feel this is what's necessary, I'm telling you I did it before, I had to do it, and I'm telling you, you have the right to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, it goes back to episode 1, where he is empathizing with Maya around, that his father died. It's in this moment that she realizes that, he turned himself, I think she says, you turned a monster into a hero, i.e. you were the monster that killed your father, even though your father was also a monster, but made it appear as though it was the same situation as with my father, that someone else killed him, and you had to deal with it and build yourself up into something that she's then looked up to, and felt that's, a big point of trust with her. So it's that revelation here, at least for Maya, is the understanding that he killed his father, and you see that surprise on her, and then you see him talking about, free yourself, if you're going to kill me with this hammer, it's kind of poetic in that sense. And so I kind of really like that. I mean, the only thing I would say is, with how indestructible Kingpin is, if Maya went full force with the hammer, it would just ping off him.
Possibly.
I mean, it seems like he's had that sort of armor fabric woven into his skin.
Just skull now.
Yeah, exactly. He's pretty indestructible. But I mean, that's his character as well. He's got that almost a superhero type strength to him. Or can be, depending on the interpretation. So
exactly. Comic books, certainly it is Kingpin's indestructible because he's massive, but he doesn't have any specific power. But again, it's one of those ones, he always comes back. So, we see it here with this show, where he's been shot at pretty close range through the eye, and here he is alive, and asking Maya to hit him in the head with a hammer.
So I think that element is there, but I would, in terms of this story, but I think Chris is right. The weightiness to this, as such, and it doesn't necessarily have to be there, but there is a lot more to it from that Daredevil season 1 for sure.
I think it works for both audiences, but it's a shame that Kel wasn't able to pick it up from what was on screen here between the two characters, because I think that's it. If you haven't seen it, hopefully it spurs you on to see it, and apparently the numbers are saying it absolutely is spurring people on to watch Daredevil season 1 to 3 again. So hopefully it spurs people on to get that extra kind of jump from watching those seasons of Daredevil. But I think there's enough here between these two characters after the episodes we've spent with them to see what he's offering here. But it does kind of lead on to the final point. I did split these points out a little, stretch them a little further than I normally do to get a fifth point. But the fifth point really is that Maya doesn't take up his offer. She walks away from him and then leaves Tamaha without him. So Fisk, thinking he's done enough to get Maya to come back to New York with him, sitting on his little Learjet, waiting for her to arrive, and she doesn't arrive. He gets a call in from his men saying they followed her and she's left Tamaha and not going to be coming to the plane.
Yeah.
But I'd say they followed her, then they lost her.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait, they lost her on a main road on her bike. It's like, how badly are they? Like, he needs some new goons. He really does.
Just how
Like,
good she is, Chris, rather than how bad they are.
we don't know what happened. She just kept going straight on this motorway
that you could see for miles.
And we just at a certain point she just disappeared. You mean she wasn't just further down the motorway?
Maybe it's like the Simpsons one where they just turned off the lights on her motorbike and they're like, oh my god, a disappearing motorbike. Maybe it was that. But yeah, she's made her choice now. She's made her choice to leave and not go back to New York, and also leave Tamaha, which I thought was interesting. So, leaving the family behind, effectively, that she's just found.
Yeah,
no, she's going solo.
Yeah,
she's a single Echo.
Yes,
that's a good one. Yes,
thank you. I take that. She's not an Echo.
But she's her own echo chamber.
That's even better. Well done.
There you go. But it does end off the episode with Fisk punching through his own jet, punching through the flimsy walls of his own jet. Hopefully he doesn't hit one of the outside walls, because I guess it couldn't fly with a hole in the side of it from a punch from Fisk. Is there any other notes, any other points from the episode you guys wanted to pull out or talk about that we haven't talked about?
No, nothing major for me.
No, I'm all good, thanks.
I just had two quick things to bring up. One was about the music in the episode. I really liked the use of Let's Go Down, a song that I remember really well from My Brother Where Art Thou. I thought it was used really well in the episode here as Maya's going through Tamaha. It was really good. We got Biscuits back. He wasn't in last episode, but a really interesting moment because it kind of came out of nowhere. It's the other guy that he is working with, I think, effectively shows him to an entire junkyard field full of car parts, which give him the ability to fix Chula's truck.
Yeah. Anything that the sun touches.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice.
I like that. And
why didn't you do that last time?
There's a reference to something else, and I can't quite remember it.
The Lion King.
It is the Lion King. Yes,
Lion
exactly.
King. Very
That's
good.
It. Yeah.
Very good. But why didn't he do that before Biscuits put his PS4 into the pawn shop? Because he was sitting in the same room as he was calling out to all the truckers.
Maybe
going,
he feels
does anybody
guilty.
want a PS4?
He might feel guilty that he had to do that.
Yeah.
So in the end has gone, there you go. Here is your kingdom of junk.
Maybe that's it. Good stuff. That's it for our coverage of Echo episode 4, Taloa. John, what did you think overall? Do you defend this episode?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it again. I just think it's really kind of nuanced stuff here, and I'm really down for it. I'd give this 4.5 Kingpin 99s with sprinkles out of 5. I just really liked sort of it, in a sense, it's just the messiness of Maya's life. And this is where it all comes up, whether it is, that mess with Henry or with Chula, with Kingpin now, the one thing where the bedrock, the person that actually, who seemingly didn't abandon her, that's all up in the air now. That has questions over it because of Hawkeye and remains so. And you have nothing resolved here with Chula, with Bonnie, where even with, Henry apologizes for leaving her alone in New York. He is kind of the one most connected back with Maya, but it's simply or what seemingly to help her become Queenpin. He's willing to, he gives her that advice. He's the one where the door is most ajar for a reconciliation, or at least that's already started. And I like how it's just all this mess, and it's that contrast to the stories, that Chula gives, the explanation around it, these ancestors, their abilities, their teachings, and how they echo through those generations to help where needed. So, I just really, really enjoy, enjoyed this episode. So yeah, 4.5 Kingpin 99s with sprinkles. 99s being an ice cream cone with vanilla ice cream and a big flake. Or it used to be a big flake.
It is.
And you would either ask for raspberry sauce to be poured over it, or maybe sprinkles.
Or maybe just plain.
Or both.
Yeah. Yeah, or both.
And you always got the chocolate stick in there.
Oh, no, of course. No. But either sprinkles or raspberry.
That is not 99.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to get the flake in there. Yeah.
Although the flake, it used to be actual flakes, and now it must be. I think it's kind of their cast-off flakes. They don't taste as good as a flake.
There you go. The crumbliest, flakiest
I hope someone
chocolate
from
in the world.
Cadbury's is listening.
Well, they're just around the corner, John. You can go and ask them.
Bang on their door.
Chris, how about yourself? Do you defend this episode of Echo?
I do. I think there's definitely, it sets up the overall series well in terms of the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And it sets up the potential future, if it makes sense, of what Echo can be or could be. But at the same point does also kind of, it feels rushed in places. Again, it just, for me, it just, I think these episodes range from the kind of 50-minuters down to like these 30-minuters. And just for me, it's this weird, I could have done with like another 5 or 10, like, actually, I don't know what it actually is. I think very much the scene with Chula and Maya, for me, that, like, I just could have like an extra 5 minutes on that. Just like really diving deep into them, the history of the echoing through time, that type of thing, really just giving that really its moment to breathe. It just felt sandwiched between these very kind of weighty points, kind of other scenes as well. So it just moved very quickly. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it and I defend it. What about yourself, Derek? Do you defend this episode of Echo?
I absolutely defend this episode. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that they're doing something really different here with Echo. And it's really part of her character. They have to have face-to-face scenes with Maya Lopez and her family, or Kingpin in this case. So having to have that means that they have to do something different to all the other Marvel shows, all the other superhero shows that are out there. It means she has to be present in the room talking to her grandmother and have that face-to-face reaction. It means Kingpin has to make an offer to her and she has to come back and discuss what's going on with Kingpin. Those kind of things are really good because traditionally in a superhero show, what happens? You meet your bad guy, he beats her, she gets extra powers, comes back and beats him, and that's it. That's your story for every single superhero show. Whereas here, she has the conversations. They have the weight and meaning behind them of their connections. And in terms of her family, you have the weight and connections of the ancestors and what they're bringing to Maya, how the family connections have built out over generations. You know, those stories, how they're told here in Echo, makes this interesting and different as a show, and I'm really enjoying how it's being presented. I think the cast are fantastic. I really think they're got all on their A game when they're all together. And that scene, once again, that scene with Chula and Maya was probably the best in the episode because you had them explaining the history to each other of what should be happening from Chula's point of view and what really did happen from Maya's point of view. I thought that was really well played. So, like it.
Good stuff.
Like it. I think we need to go and grab a bottle of wine and not pour it down the sink, John.
And most definitely. Yes, fellow quizzers, fellow defenders, welcome to the North American Bar Quiz. It is...
You change it every week. I can't change the name every week. It's just our bar quiz.
We are on to question 4 for this series. So, here we go. What day of the week do Kingpin and Maya have their Sunday dinner while in Tamaha?
Excellent. Good one. I like that. So we didn't have the wine question, but we do have it about the Sunday dinner in Tamaha. Good stuff. That's the fourth question of 5 for our Echo Bar Quiz. All you need to do is put together all the answers, email us into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com at the end of the series, and we will be giving away some Echo goodies to the winner of the Bar Quiz. John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Sure. What day of the week do Kingpin and Maya have their Sunday dinner in Tamaha? Remember, only 6 options for you.
Absolutely. So not Sunday. Ooh, there's another hint, John.
Spoiler.
I like it. Good stuff. Let's see what our fellow defenders had to say. First up, we got an email in from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow daddy dissing defenders. A deep one this was. A choice between 2 offers she can't refuse. The self-discovery in between and her seemingly denying both. He'd have had me at cookies. I wonder how much of this was inspired by the Buffy mythos, one woman a generation to take up the mantle of hero. Finally, it was great to see Willie for a full episode. 4 dinners with Andre, the Giant, Echo explanations, and hammer times out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka." Great stuff. Yeah, it really was good to see Wilson Fisk in for an entire episode. You know, we mentioned at the end of episode 3, Wilson Fisk coming in silently, not saying anything, just for that little moment at the end. Obviously, the first episode, we just saw him waking back up or still being alive from the bullet wound. But here, this is absolutely an episode with Vincent D'Onofrio front and center, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's great having him in, that Vincent D'Onofrio really superb here again. It's a character just made for him, I think. And, I love, as you say, Coffee and Vodka. I think this episode is a real deep one with the choices, the conflict that occur in terms of, how ultimately, Maya sort of takes on both those offers, really.
Absolutely. Excellent. Yeah, and I like the idea that it's similar to the Buffy mythos, the one Slayer generation. So this idea that Maya could be the generational power in this current generation. I like that.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yep, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Over on Facebook, we have some feedback from Patrick Lemke, who had this to say. "Strange how they used a different hammer than the one Fisk used in the Daredevil show flashbacks, since the back of the hammers don't match. I guess he didn't hold on to that one after all those decades and just got a new one to set an example so that he could give it to Maya. Continuity error or subtle context, you be the judge."
I like it.
I'm going not even continuity error or a subtle context. I'm going multiverse.
I love that he, for Patrick's explanation, all that has to happen is he just goes down to a local hardware store and picks up a different hammer. For ours, there has to be a new multiverse created.
Well, it's even keeping it in a lined box.
Yeah.
But technically, if it's a murder weapon, there'll be some part of the DNA still on there these days that could be extracted and link him to his father's murder.
I was just trying to remember back, because we did say we've been watching season 1 of Daredevil, but I was just trying to remember back as to whether he did keep the murder weapon, because I know they disposed of the body in the Hudson, right? That was the whole thing. They cut the body up, and over weeks, the body was dropped into the Hudson. But I thought along with the murder weapon, I don't remember the murder weapon. It might have come back in season 2 or season 3, but I don't remember him keeping it. So, did he have it in pride of place in his office throughout all of these years, or did he just buy a hammer to represent the hammer that he killed his father?
Could be just, it was very clean. Let's just say he bought a new one.
Because as you say,
representational.
John, exactly, because as you say, John, it does feel like keeping that weapon around, since it caused him so much trouble. Keeping that weapon around might be a bit of a bad idea.
Maybe just symbolic, Ultimately, the new Fisk family crest has just got a big mallet.
Just a mallet on it or a hammer on it. Yes, good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. Also on Facebook, Dr. Bob Phillips says, "Overall, I think this episode tried to set the pieces clearly for the finale, but somehow didn't knit as well for me. The flashbacks to Maya's childhood, including her mystical birth in the woods, didn't massively add to what we knew about her. Perhaps for some who have not been listening to your podcast, they needed the echoing of generations to be stated. Felt a bit heavy-handed, and the choice to reject rather than follow a pattern of violence may be too predictable. On the other hand, it could all be because the idea of an ASL contact lens AI system is just a sucker for raging corneal infections and blindness. You've got to take the lenses out and clean them, kids." Dr. Bob, thank you so much for that advice. Yes.
I like it.
Contact lenses, curse or cure. I have the disposable ones, so I just whip them out a la Wilson Fisk and sort of bin them.
But can you imagine if you had to put the ASL technology into each individual daily contact lens? That'd be quite expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
So he created one, gave it to Maya, no replacements, no
It's just for
rinse
billionaires.
their solution to clean them or anything like
just
that.
for billionaires.
Yeah, but still, if you're a billionaire, you don't want to have corneal infections, right?
Or do you?
Or do you? Well, I don't know. I guess it'd be better if it was specs, you know?
Exactly.
Then you've got the interface.
Yeah.
I guess that makes more sense.
It
Well,
would.
sure, you know. I thought it was cool. But yes, a raging corneal infection wouldn't be. It's just, but thanks, Dr. Bob. Also, it's just to say, so that those flashbacks in this are for the birth of Maya's mother,
Yes.
Taloa, not Maya herself. And I think you're right. I think it's setting it up, but I still think in terms of how that story relates to her mother is not really finished here. I'm guessing it will be in the final episode, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry it didn't work for you, Dr. Bob. I guess let's see how the finale works when all the pieces are actually tied back together in the end. I do feel like it was building towards this, and it probably did need an episode to say this is how all the previous flashbacks relate to your main character. You know, I thought it was necessary, but probably more necessary when you're watching it on a week-to-week basis than if you're watching it all back-to-back in a 5-episode dump, the way that the Disney Plus did it. So I do think it was essential, but I think the acting was probably what really made this a special episode for me.
Who needs dumps when you can do weekly?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dr. Bob, and thanks everybody for your feedback for the episode. Yep, you can email us with your thoughts on the finale of Echo to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can pop on over to our website and leave a voicemail there if you'd like to. You can also pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, where you can leave your feedback on the spoiler post over there, or head over and follow us on Threads at TV Podcast Industries, so we can make Twitter our X.
Still love that.
I know. I think it's getting worse. Unless, of course, TV Podcast Industries is really popular within the sex worker industry. Because that seems to be the only people that are following and liking on Twitter.
I've got the random sort of followers back again.
Yeah. Which are just bots, effectively.
Yeah.
Well, it's every time I report something and then I just get botted.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wait, are you telling me George Orsborn 812583248 is not a real person?
No, weirdly.
He loved all my posts and then told me about this amazing crypto piece.
What a shocker.
Told me I was the only person because we're such good friends.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Let's get rid of it. Good stuff.
If you did enjoy what you hear and you want to support us, don't forget you can head on patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where you can support us for any ongoing monthly amount. Or if you want to do a one-off donation, why not head to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where you can support us for a one-off donation and just keep Derek in some caffeine as he toils away the wee hours editing the show.
Absolutely. We've got lots and lots more stuff coming up this year on TV Podcast Industries. We've been doing, obviously, Echo on a weekly basis, but we are going to be going into The Bad Batch, Season 3, the final season of Star Wars The Bad Batch, which will be coming up later this month or later in February. That starts off with 3 episodes. And we are happy to announce we're also going to be doing another show. Myself and John are going to be taking on Shogun from FX, which starts with 2 massive epic episodes coming out on the 28th of February. That is a huge show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to be really fun to talk about. We have watched 6 episodes of the show, and we can definitely say now we highly recommend going to watch this if you're interested in any way in Japanese culture, or if you're interested
in history. Absolutely. And indeed, like, certainly off the back of the Blue Eyes Samurai. Then so as well, it's kind of, in a sense, similar era
you say similar.
Of history.
Shogun's set in 1600 and Blue Eyed Samurai is set in 1603. So
then it's the same era.
It's as close as possible as you can get.
So looking forward to that. I really enjoyed seeing these screeners.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
And if you enjoy the mature rated TV Podcast Industries and the mature rated content that we follow, well, good news, because Invincible Season 2 Part 2 is coming in March.
Mm-hmm. Yes, myself and Chris will be back covering that in March as well. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
And I'll be just watching it.
Exactly.
And enjoying it.
We might sub you in again, like we had to last time, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see
So
how
you
it
have
goes.
to keep up to date, is my point. Yeah.
I'm going to do all the work without the reward.
Well, yeah. Good stuff.
The work is the reward. Remember.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Born to work.
Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, fellow defenders, for joining us until the final episode of Echo. Keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending. Bye.
Bye.
Mind those contacts. Bye.